Guys, UFC 275 this weekend is stacked. Step into the octagon with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. If you are a new customer, you can bet $5 on UFC 275 and get $150 in free bets instantly. No matter who wins or how the fight ends, you win. There's 2 titles on the line. Glover versus Prohaska and the Bullet versus Santos, plus a rematch of the greatest women's fight of all time, Wei Li versus Joanna Champion. Looking for a big payday? Check out DraftKings Sportsbook's newest UFC feature, Same Game Parlays. Combine multiple bets, like which fighter will win, number of knockouts, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. If Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, check out DraftKings Daily Fantasy, where they will have huge contests for this weekend's fight. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Bet $5 on UFC 275 and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. My official prediction for the Bullet versus Santos, the Bullet. Come on. Now, let me take you on a journey, though, okay? Instead of sitting here and praising the Bullet and sharing with you in full disclosure, I've done a lot of homework on Santos, and I'm just not there. I'm just not. But we don't always know what we're looking at. In all fairness, we do not always know what we're looking at. If you get a tape of somebody, it's a tape that his mom made from 5 years ago when he was fighting in a smaller promotion. And the announcer isn't sharp, and the lighting's not great, and the camera angles aren't all in place. No matter how good he is, no matter how impressive those skills look, if you juxtapose that with a feed that you got from the UFC that you stole off the internet that is beautifully produced, you're automatically going to assume the better fighting was in the better quality of production. That's true. Now, I bring that up because we believe the Bullet is great. But that has to be compared to something. Anything in life, oh, he's a funny guy. Okay, but compared to who? Compared to the other guys in the room? Oh, this is a really good steak. Okay, but compared to what? Compared to the other steak that you have, right? Everything has to be compared to. The reason I say is we're convinced that the Bullet is great, correct? Yes, absolutely. Are we right? How would we know? How would we know until we're exposed to more people? And Santos is a real threat. I don't know a goddamn thing about her, but I know that she's 19-1. I know that she's got a Muay Thai background, which the Bullet likes to do. I know at least in theory she's the hungrier of the opponents, though she's likely also the more intimidated of the two. But what I'm sharing for you is I don't know a ton about her. Now, hold this thought and go back to the Ronda Rousey days. We were absolutely under the belief that that was the greatest fighting machine that we had ever seen. What we later found, and this isn't a knock on Ronda, guys. This isn't a knock to Ronda at all. It's a very good example because she was a very meaningful person within our sport. Not being critical. What I'm sharing is she never got passed up. She never got worse. Father Time never got her. It was none of the things that bring down that great big shiny star of an athlete. It was none of them. It was that the division just wasn't worked out. We didn't have the foggiest idea who the top contender was. We didn't know who should be ranked number 1, who should be ranked number 4. We didn't know who should be fighting for the belt. We didn't know who should be in contenders fights. We didn't know anything about the division. So it was never a case of like that next era fighter came along. No, it wasn't that. It was all the girls that were around at the same time. We just hadn't got her in the cage yet. We just hadn't got her in the cage with Holly Holm. On paper, an Olympic judoka medalist versus a stand-up fight. There's nothing to see. We've tested this back since 1993, and we can keep trying it again. We can bring in the James Tonys, or we can bring in the Clarissa Shields. Like, we can keep reminding ourselves that the grappler is dominant within MMA. Or we can just keep Holly away from Ronda now. Like, that made perfect sense at the time. That made perfect sense at the time until Holly beat every girl in front of her, and you just had to give her the opportunity. It was a 7-1 favorite for Ronda. We all knew how that story was going to end, and I only say that insert Amanda Nunes. We just simply didn't know that Amanda was at that level. She didn't really speak up. She didn't have this huge reputation around her. She didn't have an incredible amateur background. She didn't do any sport that was even contested in the Olympic Games. It was one of those that we didn't know. We did not know. And I'm bringing that to you because as much as we think that the Bullet, we think that we found it, she's the perfect product. And I do too. I am Team Bullet. Top 5 skilled athletes to ever do the sport. I understand that, but what if we're wrong? That's all that I'm suggesting. We really don't know that division very well, do we? We really don't know it as well as we like to pretend that we know it. Just because we've watched every fight ever since they've been contested, and just because we read the rankings every Tuesday at 9 a.m., we really don't know that division. You know it better than you knew Ronda Rousey's division back in that day. I understand that, but that was brand new. That was the first female fighter, but you don't know it all that well. It's very relevant that you understand that. We don't know when that person is going to stand across from Valentina and be the one that can do everything Valentina can do, only better. She's a great striker. She just happens to be better than Valentina, right? It's all a comparison. Valentina's in really good shape. This person happens to have better cardio. Valentina's plenty strong. This person happens to be strong. Like, we don't know until that happens, but we never know. The same is true with the guys division. I mean, I could go back in history. This wasn't to single out Ronda. We could go back to the men's divisions with the light heavyweight class and the 185-pound class. I mean, I could go through history and tell you plenty of champions within the UFC. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be a jerk and embarrass these guys. But they had no business even being in the organization. They were the champion. There was guys that had they could never get a contract under today's standards. If somehow they had a favor, their uncle works in the office and could slide, whatever, and they would never be seen on television. They were the champions. You don't know what you know until you know it. It's a very real thing. I feel like 125 pounds has been established enough. I feel like the Bullet has proved herself enough. I'm not sure how accurate my example will be, but it's a fair point by me. It's very fair that we do not know these divisions the way that we pretend. Doesn't matter how many of those fights that you've seen, they haven't held enough of those fights. There hasn't been 100, 125-pound fights ever held in history. There is not a huge focus group and pool to draw from, and we really don't know how well that order of the top 10 in fact is. We don't. It is not established. And it's one of those things where I think we're right. I'm quite sure the Bullet's going to win. I'm quite sure the Bullet is going to win absolutely every round. If you win a round against the Bullet, you just had a wild amount of success. If you won 2 rounds against the Bullet, you've just done better than anybody not named Amanda Nunes has ever done in the cage with Valentina. But it is one of those very real things. And before you think this is Chael going in an interesting direction, and in fairness, I'm stretching a little bit here, but you want to know where I got this idea and this entire concept? I got it from Valentina. I listened to a Valentina interview this morning, and she talked about that. She talked about living in the moment, being the absolute best that she can do, appreciating it, having fun, enjoying it, respecting everybody across from her, and understanding I don't truly know. I'm number 1 and I've got this belt, but what if I hadn't even come to the organization yet? Whoever is number 1, you wouldn't even know me, and you wouldn't know how to compare my skills against them, and that's true. There is new people coming in, and we truly do not know 125 pounds. We believe that we found our champion, but we believe that with Ronda Rousey as well. Everybody had told us. Jim Rome and Dan Le Batard assured us. Joe Rogan told us this was a once in a lifetime. Dana White told us she could beat up Floyd Mayweather in MMA. I mean, right, there was these we didn't know. So how good is the opponent of the Bullet? I mean, that's what she's got to go out there and prove. And the only way a goldfish can eat a shark is a whole bunch of little bites. If you try to look at that contest and try to think how you're going to get the jump on Valentina for the better part of 25 minutes, you're not going to win. You are going to have to break it down into rounds, and then you're going to have to break it down into minutes. I need to win this minute. Then if you get really good, if you're really a mentally tough athlete, you can break it down into 30 seconds. No athlete can do better than that. No athlete can be right here, this punch for this punch. No athlete's that good. They'll say they are, but they aren't. If they could break it down into 30 seconds, let me just win this 30 seconds, and then we'll repeat that 30 seconds. We'll do 10 30-second increments, and that will consist of a round. If you can do that, if you have that kind of mental toughness and that kind of mental training, that's what you're going to be able to do. If you can get to certain positions, if you can gain favor with judges, if you can understand, I just need to touch her more than she touches me. This is not complex. We're not building a spaceship here. And as many people as you want to get that dropped out of 8th grade with their gold teeth and they want to talk about the fight game and how much they know, this is not a sophisticated game. Can you touch them more times than they touch you in 25 minutes? That is what you were up against. And I'm going to predict for this contest, no. Valentina will touch her opponent more.